Okay, as everyone's getting settled in their seat, if you have a name card up here, make sure you come on up. And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order if we're ready online. All right, perfect. So I will call this meeting to order of the Livability Committee, and my name is Stephanie Kilmer. We're going to do some introductions. So, Drew, you wanna...
I'm Drew Farmer, Coos Bay City Council.
I'm Leslie Terry.
Ryan Tusk, community member.
Alfredo Velez, Behavioral Health Director of the new Three Rivers CT Clusi Clinic.
Harper Thompson, Marshfield High School.
Harv Shabothe, Coos Bay Downtown Association.
Jim Barron's Community Coalition Empire.
Calvin Strenz, Eastside Neighborhood Watch Chairman.
Scott Cooper, Alternative Youth Activities.
John Sweet, Coos County.
Can you make sure?
Laura Ursig, Director of Southern Oregon Coast Pride.
Stacy Dewater from Star of Hope.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good job on the microphones. I forgot to mention that. So these are, it's hard to hear even in the audience if we don't speak directly into them. So make sure before you speak they're on. We do have some folks online also. They cannot hear if we don't talk into these microphones. Christine, would you mind, I know you guys don't have mics, but would you mind introducing yourselves over there so everyone knows?
Christine Sylvester, City of Coos Bay.
Oh, you do? Excellent.
Chris Chapman, Coos Bay. Darren Coleman, Coos Bay.
All right. Is that everyone? And then we have a few audience members, so thank you all for coming today. We have our agenda. Our first discussion item is the unlawful disposal of solid waste and littering. And did everyone get a chance to take a look at the city code on that, as well as the report that came from the, what was that, Keep Oregon Green? Keep America Beautiful. 2020 National Litter Study. Did everybody get that in advance? Get a chance to go through it? So I would just, did we want to get anything from staff before we do this, or do we just want to talk about it? Litter was identified as a pretty significant topic for making our community livable. And of course, if you were able to get through the whole study, it really does have an impact on how our lives are in our community. So I would just open up to the discussion. Maybe share with us your thoughts on that. Anyone want to start? Okay, Calvin?
Well, I just have a couple of thoughts that came to me. 2 meetings ago, we were talking about trash bins and them being overflowing or people breaking into them. And I think we need to learn or lead by example, because that meeting I attended, we parked downstairs in the underground parking, and the city's trash bin there was overflowing. Oh, lid open and overflowing. So we need to, abide by our own rules and regulations and things, as well. And the other main thing that I'm been thinking about was home trash service. When we lived in California, in our town, although it was a small community as well, trash pickup at your home was required, where it is not here. That might help some problems, something we have to discuss. And the other thing that my wife brings up to me every week is the recycling for less trash service at home. It's poor. it's really poor. I mean, it's so restrictive on what you can put in there is ridiculous. And that's a couple of things that I have been thinking about since our last meeting.
I can speak to some of that briefly. I know the recycling constraints have been frustrating for everybody. Those really got worse after restrictions came into play for the export of recycling overseas. So that was the point at which it became like you get a cardboard pizza box, you're not even allowed to throw it in anymore because it's got grease. So that was kind of at the mercy of the international markets. However, I know there have been domestic efforts to increase recyclable, what's acceptable. But that's where the recycling restriction comes into play. I think universal pickup has been proposed before, and I would agree that's a good thing for us to revisit. I know at the last time it was brought up, and it may have been a while ago, the last time we studied it, it was the expense of implementation had been a concern. However, I would say right now, what we may consider is looking at what the expense of not having it is, because obviously it takes a lot of staff time for cleanup, how much time of the city's time is being lost addressing the level of trash, and to what extent could we expect that to be negated or mitigated by universal pickup. So that's a good proposal. Something that stood out to me on this was kind of the spread of where we see the garbage cans. Like the small parking lot at Anderson and Broadway has more.
Mention that these maps were plotted out by our staff.
Oh, yeah, the
They
maps
may
in.
not know what these are.
Oh, you don't all have maps, do you? Oh, okay.
They do, but they may not
Yeah,
know.
these came from city staff, so this is a map out of where the garbage cans are. And on, the downtown map, you'll see Broadway and Anderson has 3 trash cans around it, and it's a very small parking lot, whereas the largest parking lot downtown, that big one, really only has 2 around it. So I would think at each of the corners in the intermediate, if it had 6 around it at every intersection gap, we would probably have less of a problem there. You'd have more garbage cans and they'd be a little more visible. And high visibility aspects may be a consideration as well.
I think that there has been a shift, because as people's budgets get tighter, it gets a little more difficult, and I think it is time to revisit that mandatory trash pickup. It would probably help what the county is seeing. I mean, you're probably very affected by what happens.
Absolutely, as your son could attest.
And I think when we proposed mandatory as well, it came with subsidization so that it wasn't so big an impact on people, and that's part of the cost as well, because we don't want to drive people out of their homes so that we can pick up their garbage, and we got to keep it reasonable.
Well, why don't we talk about that and explore that? Harv, do you have anything as to what might be helpful in the downtown area?
Not really in the, in terms of the downtown, quite honestly, I think the city is doing as much as it can in terms of providing the cans, and the issue, on the other hand, is, are people using it? I mean, we run into that difficulty all over again, especially with some of the homeless folks. They don't necessarily use those cans, and your folks from the city are well aware of that as they, pick up and clean up. But I think that the city is doing what it can in terms of at least providing for the cans that are there. The thing that's interesting, and I guess the issue is, if we put the burden back and let's do the pickup, I guess the only concern I would have is some folks may decide we still don't want to purchase that trash can, and instead we'll use those trash cans that the city has, and they'll be overflowing even more. That would be my one concern there. But can there be more? Yes. Will that necessarily solve the problem? I'm not sure.
Are you seeing, and some of you have businesses down there, are you seeing a business out in Empire? Are you seeing more trash showing up, or is it kind of a wash?
I'm not sure I see all that much more. Yeah,
Are the cans getting emptied?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
As far as Empire goes, I would say that there is the same amount of ground litter. The new big belly cans are awesome, but we still walk outside and there's a pile of stuff that's left there.
So the belly cans, they can't get into to go through the trash, or are
Right.
they?
No, I don't think so. And I don't know, as far as my area on Newmark, I haven't seen people digging through trash. We got rid of our dumpsters quite some time ago because of the issue, and we went to multiple large cans that could be locked away. And so since we locked our cans away, we haven't had that issue, but I haven't seen people just along the street going into the city's cans.
Anyone else? Just feel free to step in. We'll have, Jill, do you have something for downtown? Is that?
No, well, just in general.
Okay. We'll wait and hear from the panel, and then maybe we can get some suggestions from the audience. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I'm playing with this idea, looking at where the trash cans are, and the concern people might not use them. And it's an odd analogy. I would wonder if we got more.
Share this with
Yeah,
everyone.
if we got more trash cans, the people that did the painting for where the drains are that go to the bay, if they might also be interested in painting these garbage cans to look like, maybe like it's got an angler that's being fed. And I get that idea because when somebody sees that image, they're kind of more inclined to use it. And the example I would give, it's a little gross, but they found in men's bathrooms, if you detail a fly in the urinal, accuracy goes up like 80%, spillage is gone. So if you make it look like something people are gonna target, they'll use it. So, yeah, make the trash can look like you're feeding it. People will go for it.
I like Drew's idea, and quite honestly, we put the call out to artists on the utilities. A whole number of folks have stepped up. My hunch is that if you put out a call to artists again, you would, and to be honest, the paint for that is all donated, of course. And artists are more than happy to see their work out there. So that's
The media person in me is saying, do feed the animals. John?
I do think we need to differentiate between household garbage and street trash.
Yeah.
And I know from experience at the county's waysides and parks that having big cans or big containers out there for general public use is nice, but it's not fair to the people that pay for their own household trash. And I've spent way more time than I'd like to think sorting through a bunch of junk to see where in the name of heaven it came from. And I certainly don't know everyone's name nor address that I found, but I often found people who I knew that had ample income to pay for their own garbage. They're just cheap bastards. And they're depending on the rest of us to pay for their garbage. Now, incidental trash being thrown away out of cars or when you're walking along. That's a different thing. We have to have containers reasonably sized, in my view, to accommodate that. But if we get great big containers that accommodates household trash, you're going to be paying for that too. And that's, in my view, not the public's responsibility. We are each responsible for our own, what do they call it, things like electricity and gas and all that. We pay our own way for utilities.
Mm-hmm.
We pay our own way or to dispose of bodily waste. And for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And for good reason, I think we should maybe pay for our own way to dispose of household waste.
Any other thoughts from the panel? Do you want to hear from we have a couple members in the audience that would like to give some input. Jill first. You'll have to come up to the microphone, sorry. We have people online that are listening and they simply can't hear unless we use microphones, so just tell us who you are and who you're representing.
Hi, my name is Jill Rasmussen. I'm with the Egyptian Theater. I'm just curious, has anyone reached out to any of the local garbage companies around here? Every year, twice a year that I know of, they do a spring brush pickup. They also do the hazardous waste pickups. I know that a lot of people are struggling, and if they can take shortcuts anywhere, garbage is probably one of them. But what if we talk to the garbage services and see if they would offer 1 or twice a year to dispose of your garbage?
And that would be maybe something that we could get a grant for, a local grant to pay for that and set up a few. That's a great idea. Thank goodness we have someone taking notes besides me. Yeah. And like I said, just give us your name and.
Sure. Hi, I'm Melissa Cliver. I live in Empire and hike around quite a bit and see, I guess it was last week, just at the end, it's kind of just off the map, the beach area at the end of Fulton. There's a really huge, terrifying pile of trash along the beach. It has needles and human waste and various other things. And I guess my question is sort of a process question, like who do you call? Or like, you know, we had dogs and kids with us, and it seems like almost like a health hazard more than like residential trash issue. And so I guess my suggestion is, can we break up into groups and sort of figure out like, okay, this is the group of people that are going to make suggestions about residential. This is the hazardous waste that's out there, and not only Empire on the beach, but we also drove around Libby Loop, and the whole thing along the edge is filled with trash.
Yeah,
And
that is out in the county.
Okay.
Libby is out.
So I'm not that familiar with the boundaries, but I'm just saying like there's
The
categories.
property that you're talking about, though, I think is our property, unless it's on the beach itself, then that would be probably county.
I think it's private. I think it's somebody, I think I called and somebody tried to help me figure out who owned it. But so that's another category, right? Like people that have campers on their own land, but they're not around. And so I guess what I'm just asking is like, what's the process of this committee to organize into different, like everyone's got ideas and they're sharing thoughts and feelings, and some people are taking notes a little bit, but like what's the structure for noticing problems, organizing, coming up with solutions, and then positioning them to the committee to sort of organize how it's going to be handled?
This will probably, this is the discussion by the committee, so the committee will come up with the topics. This is how this one got on the agenda. So then what will happen, I foresee, I don't know about you, is that we will kind of open the discussion like we've done today. Then staff will take that back, and then we'll, together, the counselors that are sitting on this with staff will probably develop some ideas to come back to this committee, and then vet those out. We may set up a task force like you suggested. I don't know if we'll do that for this particular
It
one.
just seems like
'cause-
there's so many different categories.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's no fines for trash. Someone mentioned that in the last meeting. If you know, there isn't a fine if you litter, apparently. That's an interesting detail, but that would fall into a category of like rules and regulations versus, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like, there's-
we do have a code that addresses that, and there is capability to fine anywhere from $100 to $500 for an offense.
So, and just to close, when I see that like big hazardous waste pile, I call, and I'm supposed to call the police, and then they make a record of it and then contact the owner, and then they potentially get that fine. Is that how that works?
Yeah, they would probably determine, can you address that, Chris, or Chief?
Essentially, you're going to probably call our non-emergent line, our dispatch. They'll kind of triage and they'll figure out where it needs to go from there. If it's private property, most of the time that's actually going to fall in our codes, in our code section, and that's actually over on the public works side. But nonetheless, we'll get it to the appropriate department. If it's if it's public property or it's in progress or it's something that is a criminal matter, law enforcement will respond and deal with the criminal side of it. If it's just stuff that needs to be cleaned up, oftentimes Public Works is involved helping clean up those, those trash piles and whatnot. So I can't give you one set answer because it all varies kind of case by case, but certainly start off with the non-emergency line through our dispatch center.
Okay, thanks.
And for the process kind of this entity is mirroring what we did with the homelessness work group. So as we identify and drill down subject to subject, it becomes more targeted, and then proposals are made from this group to reach the city council for new ordinances and that sort of thing. So like when we had the homeless work group, we went everywhere from property watch to zombie properties, shelters, and it was all over the board. So we pieced and pieced, and then, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple people with their hands up online, Barbara Taylor and Renee Reason.
Okay, Barbara?
Yes, I had a question about regarding trash pickup at private residences. I was under the impression that the state, the Oregon regulations require landlords to provide or pay for garbage service. Is that not the case? Is that part of the problem? That rental units are not having regular trash service?
So you're talking about a rental or leased property?
Yes.
Are we familiar with that?
I rent, and I'm pretty sure that's the rule. They pay for my garbage. It's the one utility they're supposed to pay for.
I was a property owner and I had rentals, and I was not aware it was something that I did pay for, just because I don't want to clean trash after someone leaves my house. And so I did pay for it, but it was not required, but it's been a while. So that may have changed.
So we have some rentals and we've been writing up lease agreements. It seems to be part of the lease, whether you decide to put it in there that they pay for it or that they don't. But I do want to bounce off of a few things. There are so many different categories here. We know that about 1% of our homeless might be causing some of the trash. As you mentioned, some people that can pay for it might be causing some of the trash. We've just had problems with our cans that people are throwing beds in them, and they don't even fit. They're just putting them on top. And obviously, that's a whole other category of people. This is huge. And then the question, I want to throw OBABs under the table. Oregon Beautification, that has community members that go out and start cleaning up. I know we as an organization take kids out there and clean up. Where does that line between what we're supposed to do as individual citizens and the council or our city or our counties come in? I mean, it's really, it's interesting now that I'm thinking about it and we're breaking it open. where does our responsibility as citizens come in, and what do we just point our fingers back at the city council and say, you should be taking care of this? There's a line there.
Well, I know if Nicole is here, and she would be here, except that she is at a League of Oregon Cities meeting, she would probably tell you that there isn't a capacity in the budget for the city to provide. Now, I know that the city has, you know, they negotiate the contract or the agreement with the waste company. And it's because of that agreement that we have those extra events. And quite honestly, I have spoken with people from the trash company. They do that at a loss. They were doing recycling, the recycling that is required to be provided in the community. That's done at a loss, especially with all of the regulations that have been placed on recyclables. So I think there's a give and take, and it probably needs to be a broader discussion on this with the folks that have the franchise in the city. And that could probably be something that staff does, or we can have those folks come to our meeting and sit down and talk trash with them. I couldn't help it. I had to do it. I've been waiting all day to do that. Sorry. Anybody else?
Stephanie, I think one of the things...
Is your microphone on?
You want to
pull it? Yeah, there you go.
There we go. One of the things I think we need to do is look at PSAs and getting the word out in terms of don't litter, don't pollute, whatever you want to run. But I cannot recall seeing a PSA about littering since I've moved to this community. I don't think I've seen a print ad either in anything, chamber publications, newsletters, any of that sort of stuff since I moved here. And I moved here in '99. So I do think that needs to be looked at to try to take care of some of the grassroots. I know that the PD writes seatbelt ticket things based on grant money and writes cell phone ticket things based on grant money. Perhaps we need to see if we can get a grant to run a sting at the Empire Boat Ramp trash, the dumpster. I was looking at polls out there the other day, and there's some places to put some cameras and make an example out of somebody. I also took a look at the city's ordinance. We're cheap, even with our the penalty increasing over successive occasions. When I go to a tourist community that I frequent a lot, it's $500 for littering. That's the first time. And then it goes right up, and it goes to $5,000 very quickly. And not picking up after your dog is $350. And they do write the tickets, but they have way more police staffing than we do. Okay, but that's just my thinking on some of this, and I honestly think, I don't quite agree with Commissioner Sweet. I honestly think in this community, with the amount of household garbage that we're picking up in public places, and I have a lot of experience. I spent the summer doing a lot of that. I do think that we need to figure out a method to pay for garbage service universally for residential accounts.
I love that idea.
Okay,
I love
you
that
have
idea.
to speak louder.
I really like that idea because I'm sitting here having lots of thoughts, and something that a few folks have brought up is like, this is such a diverse types of litter, like different types of litter need different types of response. And whenever I've worked with like wraparound teams in the past, when you have a huge outcome you're hoping for better well-being, you have to break it down into steps. And so I wonder if there's something within this process where we can just like put things on a piece of paper, be like, you know, the health, there's human feces and needles, like that is one priority. And then we just kind of choose what we're going to prioritize. So we feel like we did something, because there's so much, I'm overwhelmed with where to start and like, where do we have solutions? Because I feel like I think Jill, you mentioned our garbage folks aren't here. They'd be great to have on this committee at this point because they know, you know, they pick up trash for a living.
I would ask Christine if possible, can we reach out to some communities that do provide that service or that require that service to be provided or purchased or whatever, however you would call it, and take a look at what those communities are doing and what the results of that are, because Jim brings up a really important point, and he's been on a lot of those OBAB cleanups, but also has gone into, you know, vacant properties that are public properties. The one that comes to mind is the one by Sunset Middle School. And that was a huge one that was household garbage. Not the biggest percentage. What did you say, 80%?
60+% of Cayman was household garbage. I mean,
so it's big.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Furniture, mattresses, people, matter of fact, we're trying to put together another Cayman cleanup with Scott over at AYA. We've got, it's probably half household garbage right now. We just walked it about a week ago. So there's not a huge amount in there right now, probably 15 bags, and about half of that is household garbage. It's not construction material, it's people's household garbage. I pulled envelopes out of stuff this summer, and my problem with turning envelopes over to the police is occasionally household garbage that's put by the curb is taken by people that sort through it for cans. And then they set the garbage down wherever they're done sorting for cans, and it may have someone's correspondence in it. So I'm kind of gun shy about that. However, about 3 years ago, because I got a bag dumped off in front of my house that was full of adult diapers and bed pads, but they left their mail in it. Okay, that got turned into the cops for a welfare check, not for a ticket. The person that had that dropped off could have been their caregiver, was an 80-year-old woman. And I asked the police for a welfare check. I didn't follow up to see if they did it, but I'm pretty sure they probably had a little chat with them, just saying, hey, we found your mail and your garbage, okay, but anyhow, the PSA thing is the one that sticks in my head, because when I go down into Florida, into the South, I actually see PSAs, especially in beach towns. Radio announcements, billboards. I usually read the local paper when I'm in those towns. I usually always see something talking about beach litter, trash, not household garbage, but beach litter and trash.
I'm 100% with you, Jim. We all know that all drains lead to the ocean. We've done a really good job of saying that in our community, and like, we don't want bad things going into our drains, but that's one that we've heard. But I don't know that it speaks directly to it's litter that causes the pollution that's going into the drain, so.
I didn't realize that grass clippings were also considered litter. I want to get to the other question or comment that was online, and I'm sorry, I can't read this. Renee?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Renee Menkins. I live over by Toppets Park off of Lakeshore Drive. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this issue. I know we're doing problem identification, but one of the things that I think a PSA, as one of the members noted, could be useful is really recognizing people that are making an effort to pick up. I walk frequently along Lakeshore Drive near Toppets Park and have picked up trash, and I see other people doing it. The road looks so much better right now, and at times it is just covered with litter. So I think as part of this process, recognizing those that are doing public service for no other recognition than helping to make our community look better is something to consider as we're doing more of the work of identifying problems, looking at solutions, but also, as another member noted, recognizing those that are taking it on themselves to pick up trash and to make even small sections of our roadways that aren't in housing areas, but near housing areas, be safer and better. So that's just my comment to try and weave that into solutions and recognition as we're moving forward.
Thank you. We do need to sandwich the good in with the bad things sometimes, and I think that's important. Calvin, did you have something to add?
Yes, I live in Eastside, in fact, 7th and E corner house, and I've had recently issues with trash being dumped off right next to my home. It started off with just big boxes of trash. Then there was a stack of wood pallets. Then there was a huge wooden doghouse, stacks of plastic 5-gallon buckets, just a variety of things over, not all at the same time, just, one after another. And
I was going to say, who did you upset?
yeah, and in fact, one of the things that was kind of the last draw, the big wooden spools that cable companies use and stuff to put up power lines and different things. I had one of those, and it's like, I'm 72. I'm disabled. I can't take care of that stuff, and it's a pain, and I don't know if there's a good answer, but we have to do something about some of this stuff.
Harper, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I've been listening graciously. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm just trying to take in everyone's ideas.
All right.
I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
I have an offer to make.
Okay.
I think there's a way to get what the number would be, what the cost would be of having county-wide free garbage service. Round numbers, I think I know the garbage collection companies pay the county at our transfer station X dollars, and we add on to that enough money to truck it to a landfill and pay the landfill fees. So if we could get those charges that the two major transfer stations, the one in South Coos Bay and the one at Beaver Hill in the county, collect, that would give us a pretty good idea of what it would cost to have government-paid garbage service.
In the meantime, it might not hurt to survey the public and see how they would feel about it, of course.
Well, let's give them a number to feel about, because
Yeah.
it's going to be higher than all the taxes they pay to the county, to run the county. I can guarantee you that right now. So it's unfair to ask the question, because everyone's going to assume it's free. They
Right.
better know what it's going to cost.
Well,
in
I
order to
think,
give us an answer
didn't
that we
Douglas
can
County
use.
used to do that? They
Pardon me?
had free, Douglas County had free garbage pickup, and they've done away with it. They could, I think, for that very reason.
Yeah, it's enormous. And I'm not so sure they had free pickup. They had,
they
didn't charge
take it.
to
They didn't
take it
charge.
from the transfer station
Yeah.
to the landfill. And the landfill was in their backyard, not 3 hours away like ours.
That might be good information for us to.
But I'll get
gather
that
as well.
information. And
Yeah.
So I really appreciate this discussion. I know it's a big problem in the cities, but it's enormous in our county forest and along our county roads. And I know most of that is not homeless garbage, so we can separate a lot of this from homelessness. Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Scott?
Garbage reduction. We haven't looked at the other side of it. It's been a topic that's been fun for education for a long time, particularly the plastic bottles, wash the shore and all that stuff. We prepare things for the kids to kind of educate them on them. We have the opportunity of taking the next generation and helping to understand about packaging. I know a few years ago we had talked about getting rid of the plastic bags, and boy, that was controversial, but look, we managed to do it somehow. Just to change the topic from, you know, stopping garbage, whose fault it is and everything, to garbage reduction for the next generation. I mean, it might be difficult for us to think about, but I think the kids might be interested in this conversation. If it was up to me, I'd have everyone walk around with a water bottle, a spoon, and a plate, and would walk up to the window at McDonald's and they would put it on their own plate. We did this for thousands of years. We carried around all the utensils that we needed for eating. And somehow, I mean, I think it's 5 times your body weight is what you throw away every year. Don't quote me on that, but it's some ridiculous amount. Reduction, maybe that should be added to the conversation.
Apologize, I got to step out for another meeting.
Okay. Yes, that definitely needs to be part of the conversation. I had a thought and I lost it. Did anybody else want to?
I totally agree with Scott and looking at this from an issue of this stuff that we call garbage, what it was before it was garbage. It was what we drank our coffee out of, what we ate our food out of. And there are so many affordable alternative methods for, you know, containing our food. And if you look at these lists, like the majority of the containers are food containers. So why don't we just nip it in the bud and, you know, take care of it from the source? Don't let our food carts serve their food in styrofoam containers. Make them do it in compostable containers. Thank you.
I like the, I like it. I think that I like the method of not just striking first with a hammer, you know, a penalty for doing something. Just the education about the plastic bags, and as bad as COVID was for how people felt about it, I think that helped change the view of using a non-recyclable plastic bag. It helped, I think, because then we had control over what we were touching and everything. But that is not scientific, that's just my opinion. But I like, in my leadership style, is to get people to come along, pull them along, pull them into something. And we do that with education, and then we lower the hammer if we don't get, you know, compliance. But I think it's worth it, you know, to start talking about it. If we start talking about all of these things through public service announcements, through all of the people that are sitting on this, there's a wealth of people here to reach an audience, plus the city. We can start that process, but we have to organize it, like you said. So we still have a few minutes. Is there? What do we want to take back to the city? Well, I guess we have a couple more comments. Please come up and introduce yourself.
Ken Volker, Coos Bay. There's a lot of, when I go to Canada, in the Vancouver area, they have an excellent recycling program. A lot of trash is, you have to keep it separate. Tin foil, you have to keep it separate. Saran wrap, you have to keep it separate. Paper towels, any paper products, you have to keep it separate. Styrofoam, you have to keep it separate. But they, like garbage, potato peels and things like that, leftover foods, you put it out, but it's all separated. And if you don't do that, they fine you. So it prevents a lot of that stuff from going into the landfills, which takes decades to get rid of it. And that's why they do that. And they don't have a bunch of trash laying around. They have, they use people that do community service things to go and pick it up. So, there's a lot more things that can be not put in the landfills. And this, things like that would help. Thank you.
Andrew? Just your name and who you're representing. If it's yourself, that's fine.
May I represent like two hats today?
Sure.
Okay. Councilor Kilmer and committee, thank you for letting me speak here for a few seconds. So I looked at the agenda item on this, and I'm very passionate about this. And I actually found a lot of state laws and ideas that they already produce on the Oregon.gov website. So I'll share a little bit, but not take too much of your time. To where on my homeless response, this is actually part of our strategic plan, and one of our long-term plans is to address the broad community concerns about public safety and trash. And one of the biggest things is that we continually look at is, and I focus more than just campsites, but consider the resources needed to dispose of trash. So that's another reason why I'm here. So I looked on the subject. If you don't mind, I took notes on my phone here, and I want to make sure I get some accurate stuff. Like I said, this is part of the Oregon.gov. And if you Google search the agenda item, it brings out, okay, so you read it too. So it's called Cleaning Up Illegal Dump Sites, Community-Based Strategies. And there's 5 of them that they use. One is public awareness, tips for citizens, which we're doing right now. Secondly, public awareness campaign tips for property owners, which can also touch on the neighborhood watch programs that we have. Number 3, hosts special item collection events. OBAB, like I said, is doing an excellent job on this, but I think we can help them out, correct? Okay. Number 4 is organize a community cleanup, which we do in our community, but we can do more, correct? And then 5th, adopt a dump, river, and neighborhood or street programs to have that in the process as well. May I touch on a few of these items? Okay, all right. So the first one, I think it's awareness, is to help our law enforcement, which we have here today, because they can't do it all, okay? So here's one thing. If you participate in the neighborhood watch program, add to your list of suspicious activities, trash landing pickup trucks cruising the neighborhood. You guys probably already doing that, but I just want to give you that model right there. Another thing is, let's see here. If you're having construction or remodeling work done, as to where there is debris been taken, and ask for a disposal receipt. So that's another idea. So like I said, this is all on Oregon.gov, and I encourage you to take a look at it, and I would love to talk to you more about it as well, that we can find it in our strategic plan. Secondly, let me touch on this real quick, is when I was talking about implementing Adopt a Dump, River, or Neighborhood and Streets program, I'm going to read this to you. It says, similar to Oregon Department of Transportation Adopt a Highway program, and Adopt a program that provides a structure to conduct cleanup of an illegal dump, a river or stream, neighborhood, or street. Adopt groups can be organized by individuals, interested in groups such as neighborhood associations, watershed councils, and our local government, such as public works and road departments. So mainly is getting a group together or a neighborhood together, bringing a report, and then we can send it by email to our officers to let them know what's going on. I'm not going to read all this email, but like I said, if you Google it or go on Oregon.gov, you'll find a lot of information. Now coming back on working with less sanitation and stuff, I would encourage you to reach out to former council member Bill Richardson. He is now retired from West Sanitation. He has a high interest in our community more than ever still. And he can probably bring up some great ideas as well, how we can save money and help out cleanup areas. That's all I have, but if you have more questions later, I'll be here afterwards. Thank you.
That was right, then we're right on the lines, because we have recognized a lot of those things and identified those as potential topics that we can take away from here. Dean, we are getting close to the end of our meeting, so I can give you a couple minutes.
I would appreciate it. Dean Lundy with the Divine Nature Academy.
You have to come up to the microphone. We have people online that can't hear you from there. Sorry.
I was a fireman. I know a lot about trash. I'm not afraid to shake hands with anything. But what I wanted to say is we're not cops or garbage men or anything. We're just consumers, and it's not our job. The problem is plastic and one-use containers. On both of our properties, all we do is pick up, other than tire shreds and stuff, all we do is pick up plastic. And if you've got a mouth the size of a car hood, like the whales out here, everything goes into the river here. Everything blows into the river. We have to stop it at the source. Recycling is a myth. It's a hoax put out by Halliburton. It doesn't exist. It all goes into landfill. Something like this looks just like a jellyfish in the water. A plastic bag looks like a jellyfish. These things are, we have to stop this one-time use stuff. We've just approved 3, I think, fast food restaurants across from the bay where my property is. And that's what I run into the most is fast food forks and straws and junk. They use it once and throw it away. Plastic bottles. It's in all of us. This plastic, it's in mother's breast milk, it's in everything. We have to stop it at the source. And you guys are the finest minds, and congratulations, you're the finest minds we have. We don't have to do statewide something. All you have to do is not reach in your pocket and buy it. We boycotted whatever, we stopped DDT. The DDT was killing the pelican, eggs were getting thin. You have to tell people, like it says, get the PSAs out there, cigarette filters. It's fiberglass. They think they're shrimp. These poor animals are smart, but they can't differentiate this. And the six-pack racks, I couldn't believe it. In the 70s, we cut every loop of these six-pack racks. They're a killing machine. And I've seen them still in stores. This is nuts. You know, we got to put the hammer down now. Like Scott Cooper said, this one-time use stuff is ridiculous. It all goes into garbage. We're consuming too much. And like Ryan Tuss said, take your glass container. Right now, all the smartest people in Europe are meeting in Ottawa, Canada, to talk about what we're talking about right here. We're on top of it. This is what we should be talking about. Thank you very much.
No, this is very important, and I think that's where the education and the public awareness, we can bring that up and maybe create a campaign that addresses that. We don't get to package food and things like that. I mean, the corporate for fast food restaurants isn't located here, and they're making decisions for things all over the country, but we can affect what people do with that if they do purchase it. And I think, if I look back over my 58 years, there were huge campaigns when I was a child about trash, and you don't see that anymore. And so maybe we just that needs to be a task that we take on, and that is putting that message out there constantly and making sure that we have things to receive that when somebody does use something, that they have a place to put it, and that it doesn't sit there long enough that it gets blown around our community, because we have wind and we have water, and it's an attraction. It's going to happen. So, is there anything that anybody else would like to say before we get
Just
to a
want to throw
wrap?
out really quick, if anybody gets a chance, go to YouTube and put in the problem with stuff. It'll give you lots of facts and statistics. The problem with stuff. And then you can move into the problem with water bottles. But start with the problem of stuff.
Okay, Scott suggests the problem with stuff on YouTube. Oh, okay. The problem of stuff. Check it out. That's your homework. And Christine, do we have a way to put this litter study, did you get that offline?
Yes.
Okay, it's titled Keep America Beautiful, the 2020 National Litter Study. It is eye-opening. It really is. I thought, oh my goodness, all those pages, and I couldn't stop reading it. I wanted to see where it was headed. It breaks it down. They did, how many miles, Stacy?
19,000, over 19,000 miles. Over 19,000 miles.
And they actually looked at waterways and roadways and talked about the number of pieces of trash along that, and it was billions. And tragic. And I think that there's probably some things on those statistics, the numbers that are even higher in our community. We don't necessarily always see it because it does blow into the waterways and down our storm drains, which lead right to the storm drains. But there's some good ideas here. Let's sort those out, and maybe we can set up some task force at the next meeting to start doing a little bit of work on this. And if you have any suggestions, do we have a mailing list? You guys all received everyone received a meeting notice. Maybe you can send something out if you think of it, and we can get it on the agenda. And let's break this down and move forward on it. I think maybe if we just tackle household waste right now and recycling and you know, that public awareness, we can do something with that.
And it would be helpful for staff in putting together the next agenda, more targeted, exactly what topics, is that the topic going to be household litter? And then do you want any more information?
Yeah, I think we'll tackle litter in general. Let's break it out. I have public awareness, household garbage reduction, and the exploration of a county-wide free garbage.
Okay.
Because whatever we do here impacts other places.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do us a whole lot of good to, eradicate maybe some of that here if it's gonna blow in from a neighboring property.
That's right.
Or somebody picks something up and drops it over here, because we have.
Could we ask someone from Waste Connections to attend? This is their business.
Mhm.
They know what it is. They know really how much it costs all of us to use things over and over again. We get a lot of information from the state, and
So
it comes
are
out
there
of
some
Portland
things-
and places with big populations, but we're hundreds of dollars per ton away from places like that, and recycling here is different than there.
And maybe we could get kind of a summary staff report if you're able to locate. Do you have capacity to do that, Christine? To check with some other communities that do require?
Absolutely. I'll see what I've got it on my list. We'll get it done.
You be honest with me, though. I don't want to load your plate up.
That's right.
I know you've got a lot of other things, so, so yeah, if we can
Yeah, yes.
see if someone from Waste Connections can come.
Thank you.
And is there anything else that the committee would like to see on the agenda? Oh.
This is Renee Minkins, and I just think we should follow up on a PSA strategy as one of the discussion items.
It's on there, we got it.
Yeah, public awareness is what I kind of went a little bit broader than just public service, but public awareness, either through targeted, written or broadcast.
What about illegal dumping and hazardous waste?
Well, and that can be part of that. We do have needle disposal at the fire departments, and then we also have battery disposal. So, and has Rotary made the city aware of where those locations are?
I'm not aware that they.
Okay, I'll talk to somebody with Rotary and see where those are, because that could be part of that as well. Andrew, real quick.
So adding on to the PSA format, it'd be nice to find somebody that does video production and maybe have a model of a 30-second thing that can go either on TV or on YouTube. And so it just hits people hard every time they see it, especially if they're not a subscriber to the Platinum package of YouTube, that we could share it among others. It's just another idea to get the word out.
Okay, and then Dean, real quick.
Can we add, next month is Bike for Health and Fun Month. Can we add walkability or bicycle issues to the livability thing in the future? Instead of trash?
Yeah, we aren't restricted to one topic. And I don't know where the subcommittee is that the city put in place on the Parks Commission. Are you aware, Ryan?
Not entirely. I know that we have a few representatives who were on that initial subcommittee are now on the Parks Commission, and I believe Eric is heading up the subcommittee for that.
So maybe we can have somebody give us a report on the discussions that are happening at the Parks Commission, because that's really in their wheelhouse, Dean.
Yeah.
And that will come back to council, but it is part of this committee as well. I think it's a livable topic, so maybe we can get a report from where that is. Does that work?
Are you asking in general, like for similar non-trash related livability ideas, or do we really want to focus on this trash piece for now?
I think we really want to get that
done?
moving.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't mind if we bring up some other topics. It's good to keep those, we'll probably do at the end of the meeting, and I think it's on the agenda, where we talk about future topics. So, did you have something that you wanted?
I was just thinking, well, I was going to share that I've been talking with some of our youth about, like, when you hear livability, what do you look for? And, like, trash is not something on there, for them it comes down to, like, having places to go. And I know that that's like, okay, what can we all possibly do to create more businesses or walkability? But, like, sidewalks, places I can walk to, I think we could drill down more on that.
Okay.
Because to them, trash doesn't matter, interestingly. To the ones I've talked to, I should say.
I'm wondering if, Harper, in your spare time, I know you don't have much of it, is there a way to maybe talk to maybe the Key Club could take up that matter and talk about some of the topics that we could bring back to this committee?
Absolutely. What comes to mind first is probably our Youth Action Council at Marshfield, so that would probably be our first step if you wanted to talk to youth.
Okay. So do you want to maybe get together with them and talk about what things they'd like to see come before this committee?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then bring that back maybe at the next meeting?
Yeah.
All right, good. We're over time, so I appreciate everybody giving their time at noon today, and we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.